Thanks, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, so yes, here we are to talk about thinking patterns and this MindSonar tool. And so first, I would like to share, as some of you already know. So I'm based in Canada. So that's me. The last weekend, I was there. The hills on my toboggan. So I've lived in Canada for the last 10 years, and just like it was mentioned before, I'm a master NLP practitioner, certified coach, and I've been teaching in more than 18 countries, most of them with MindSonar. And now we are exploring the opportunity to enter the country of India. So today we will talk about thinking patterns and how these thinking patterns are part of MindSonar. And I would like this webinar to be very interactive. So I will be asking questions, and I really appreciate if you could answer the questions and give me your opinion, ideas. Do you agree to what I'm saying, or is it something totally different to what you think or believe in? That's always welcome. So first, let's talk about what is a MindSonar. So MindSonar is a psychological tool created by Dr. Jaap Hollander in the Netherlands 20 years ago. Just to give you an idea, Dr. Jaap Hollander is the director of the NLP Institute, the Institute of Eclectic Psychology in the Netherlands. And it was the first NLP institute in that zone of Europe. So it has been involved with NLP for more than 25 years. And they developed this tool called MindSonar. And we measure thinking patterns. And I will explain in a moment how thinking patterns really can create an impact on understanding human behavior and why we reach our goals and why we don't sometimes. It is the first contextual tool. When we talk about contextual, normally when we, that's the first question that I have for you. Do you use any psychological measure to help your coaching clients now? Like today, what kind of tools do you use? You can use a chat for that. You can use your microphone if you want to. But I would like to read or listen from you. What are the tools that you're using to help, if you're using any, of course, to help your coachees? Do you use any psychological tool? I'm reading the chat right now. There's nobody there. Or if you want, you can use your microphone. MBTI, FireOB, DISC, and Gallup Strength Finder. Yes, very well-known tools, most of them. DISC, okay. I assume it's DISC, right? Hogan, yes, Hogan, which is a newer version. Yeah, I like that one. Yes, any other Hogan assessments, which is very common, Hogan nowadays in the corporate environment, right? Anybody else who uses any other psychological tool? Okay, so the Lumina, yeah, there you go. So usually what happens is that psychology, and that's another quick question that I have for you. How many psychologists do we have in the room today? So if you're a psychologist, just raise your hand if you're on camera, or send a message on the chat and let me know if you're a psychologist. Because I'm a psychologist myself, and when I went to school, in the School of Psychology, it was like a long time ago. I'm not gonna say how many years, but it was a little while ago. And they taught me that personality remains constant in time. So in those days, I'm talking about more than 20 years ago, they mentioned that personality never changes. So if we measure personality, like we do with the MBTI, with DISC, with Hogan, we measure personality, we are measuring something that we cannot change. So all we are doing is understanding how we are and adapting to that. So now MindSonar does not work like that. So MindSonar is different from MBTI, Fero, DISC, Hogan, Lumina, because we measure thinking patterns. And that's precisely the key, thinking patterns. And thinking patterns change all the time. Thinking patterns change constantly by group pressure, by the way we, the experiences we have in life, what we learn. We start understanding and changing our thinking patterns. So the results you get when you measure thinking patterns, you can change. So that's the first big difference. When we work with personality, like MBTI, DISC, Hogan, Lumina, when we work with personality, we're measuring something that remains constant in time. When we measure thinking patterns, in the other hand, we're measuring something we can change. And I will explain in a moment how this changes the way you interact with your coachee. So this is part of the team. I just wanted to share with you a few of the people because Eric has been making the contacts in India, but there's that Dr. Jaap Hollander, the creator of the tool, and people around the world using and supporting the use of this tool that measures thinking patterns. So now with that in mind, and I'll go quickly through this, this is the pyramid that I want to share with you. And this is most of the presentation is going to go around this. So what happens normally is when you are doing coaching sessions, you are there to give results, right? So they hired you because they want different results, because they didn't like the results that they get, because they want to achieve a certain result. So therefore they called you as a coach to do some coaching and help them get the result they want. Where are results coming from? So if we only have results as a part of this formula, then you would be guessing all the time until you get the right result. But that's not the case. Now, some coaches say, if you don't like the results you're getting, you change your actions. Actually, the definition of Einstein of insanity was to do the same thing once and again and expect different results. So results, yes, they do come from actions. So different actions, different results. Yes, different actions, different results. Now, but where are those actions coming from? Why do I behave like that? Why do I do this? Why do I do that? Why do I respond immediately? Why do I wait so long before taking action? Why do I feel responsible? Why do I feel irresponsible? So all those actions that I'm performing and delivering every day, they come from a specific place. What is that place? Well, that's the next stage on the pyramid, which is the feelings. If you get a different feeling, you change the action, you get a different result. Does that make sense? So different feeling evokes a different action, which evokes a different result. There's a lot of background noise on one of the microphones, right? Thank you. There you go. So we have different feelings, different actions, different results. So, but there's an issue here, right? Where are feelings coming from? So if we get different results from different actions and we can change our actions, changing our feelings, but how do we change feelings? How do we feel different? How do we understand where feelings are coming from? Well, feelings are created due to a belief. We do have a belief that creates a feeling, that creates an action, that gets us some results. So different mindset evokes different feelings, then we feel different, we act differently, and with different actions come different results. It's okay. So if I understand thinking styles and if I understand thinking patterns, then I will be in a much better position to manage and understand my feelings. And then if I understand my feelings and I manage them appropriately, if I have the right feeling for the right context, then I will have the right action that will lead to the right result. But what is this mindset? what happens to this mindset? Why do I have this mindset? How do I change my mindset? How can I understand my mindset better? Well, all the thinking patterns lie in this area, mindset. So mindset is a set of thinking patterns that we have learned through time. Some of them are very unconscious. We don't really know that we have them, but we are acting upon them. There are base core that we have that lead to feelings, that lead to actions, that lead to results. Now, this mindset depends on the context. That is why if you are with your friends, you have a mindset, but that mindset is different if you move and you talk to your family only, or if you go to work. So for instance, the mindset I have right now when I'm teaching this webinar, it may be totally different than the mindset I have when I'm sliding down the toboggan, right? When I'm playing with my family, when I'm having fun with my friends, when I'm writing my book. So when I'm working on different things, I have different contexts. Different contexts evoke different mindsets, and different mindsets evoke different feelings, which evoke emotions that give me different results. So now, that being said, if you don't like the results, do not think about changing your actions. Think about either reviewing and changing your mindset or moving to a different context, which is way safer, way more reliable, and way more sustainable in time. Because if you are only pretending fake actions with different feelings, so I feel like waiting, but I will act, or I feel like acting, but I will wait, or I feel like I'm not responsible, but I'm very responsible, then you are not being congruent between your actions and your feelings, and that is not sustainable in time. Does that make sense to you? Is that something that you can relate to? Have you seen this happen with your coaches? I would like to hear from you, either on the chat, or if you want to use your microphone, you're always welcome. I would like to hear what you think so far before we move forward to the next slide.
Shall I say?
Yes, Aparna?
Yes. I actually tried this with one of my coaches where the focus was more on the results. So it is, I actually called it differently. I called it thinking on purpose. So based on the results, how you can change your thinking pattern. So we sort of went calculated backwards, saying, okay, this is what you want to do. So what is the actions? And then for those actions, what will drive you? So we sort of worked backward. So I called it thinking on purpose. So
okay, that's all right. That is good. So thinking on purpose creates a specific feeling on purpose, and that creates an action with purpose, and that purpose is going to bring me a result.
yeah.
Right? So now those mindsets and thinking patterns, how do you detect them? How do you know which one you're going to work with, or how do you choose the right thinking pattern that you will use with your customer or your coachee?
Actually, I left it for the coachee to pick. I wasn't
Okay.
doing it for them. I just helped them use this tool. So I said, okay, so you have multiple options in front of you to achieve a kind of a result. Now, out of these actions, which one would you rather pick? What was your first choice? And then we worked back, and everything was the coachee actually selected himself. So I didn't do anything. I just told them what can be done for them to achieve the result.
Perfect. Okay. Yes. So that's one way of doing it. And actually, it takes time, right? It takes time to get to know the coachee, to understand how they think the results they are getting. Why is it they're not getting them? The actions that they're performing, and then start classifying those actions in certain thinking patterns. It takes time. Now, I will go to the next slide. MindSonar, by the way, the thinking patterns work in this area, like mindset and context. This is where we work with thinking So now that being said, if you only change your actions, it's superficial, unsustainable change because you just pretend, right? If I just pretend, let's suppose that I'm not patient. I'm one person that is always ready to go, making quick decisions, and you tell me, let's do a webinar, and I immediately say yes. I don't even look at my calendar. You know, I'm always making quick decisions. Let's suppose I'm like that. And then for some reason, that doesn't give me the results I'm looking for. What am I going to do? I go to a coaching session and the coach tells me, you need to be more patient. You need to think about things. And I say, okay, I understand. I understand that I have to change my ways. I will be more patient. So the next time someone comes and tells me, Jaime, you need to do a webinar, even though inside I'm burning on a desire to say yes, even though I want to immediately move towards action, I'm holding myself and thinking, no, I cannot do that. So for some time, I will struggle to do that, but I'm suffering on the inside because there is not a connection between what I feel and what I'm doing. So I'm disconnecting the feelings from my actions. So therefore, it is not sustainable in time. That's why sometimes we see some managers who are pretending to be connected with people. And their team says, like, it's so fake, right? We don't feel it. Just because the person is only changing the actions. They haven't changed their feelings or their mindset. So that's a big difference. That's why you don't feel connected. Now, feelings are triggered by mindset. I remember when I started my career in psychology, and we used to go to this place to see some patients, and sometimes the patients were deeply depressed and they were crying. And I remember one of my colleagues, and we were still students, and he came to that person and said, why are you crying? Well, I feel very sad, the patient said. Well, my colleague said, please don't cry. Wow, I never thought of that, he said. So the patient was surprised. It's like, of course, he was being sarcastic, right? How can I just stop crying because you asked me to stop crying? So feelings cannot be changed just like that because they are triggered by something we believe. If I believe that there is something to mourn about, to be sad, to grieve, then I'm going to cry. I'm going to be sad. Then if you tell me don't be sad, but I still believe in the inside that I should be sad, there's no way I can stop crying. And if I stop crying, it's fake because I'm not connecting, letting flow my mindset into my feelings. But what if I go and I understand that if the context changes, everything changes. And then this patient says like, well, but it's because if my relative didn't pass away, I would be happy. Can you change that? No, we can't. Your relative already passed away. There's nothing we can do about it. We cannot change that. So we cannot really change that context. But in other scenarios, we may do. We may be able to change the context. Like for instance, if you know you're not being happy selling products, what about hiring someone to sell for you so you can focus on what you're good for, like managing business or doing all the financial side of the business? Or sometimes you're not good at making quick decisions, but you're very good at strategies. Then you hire someone or you work together with someone who is eager and looking forward to make quick decisions. So sometimes you can change the context in order to work in a much better environment. Sometimes you cannot. And therefore, the safer, easiest way to work is where long-term, conscious, sustainable change happens, which is on mindset. Because if you change your mindset, then everything follows through. Does that make sense? I will read here. It says, very true, as only changing actions is very superficial and not sustainable. Yes, Anu, thank you. absolutely resonating with what you're saying. I'm reminded of a saying that goes, context is decisive. Yes, it is indeed. Thank you. And if you can quote that, I would love it. I would love to have the person, the author of that quote or the book where it comes from, because it's actually aligned to what we do. What may not be able to change the context, but we can change our perspective. Yes, and that's precisely the mindset. Is changing the perspective you have towards things, changing the beliefs. What do you believe in? Like, for instance, let's go back to this example where one person is eager and always trying to make decisions quickly. What is the mindset? What is the belief that this person has? Probably opportunities are not always there. If you don't catch the moment, it will evaporate. Tomorrow never comes, right? So these beliefs they have in their mind, and they activate mindset that is making them feel uneasy. And we will see an example of that in the next slide. So, but I would like to get some feedback from you, or if you're seeing, if you have your camera active, if you are using the chat, and you just nod your head and tell me like if you're doing yes. Yes. Oh, he was gonna speak in. There you go.
Hi, Jaime, are you able to hear me? Prasad here.
Prasad. Yes.
Yeah, I think this is quite helpful, quite insightful, definitely. So just one clarification here. So we are saying here that if we need a sustainable change to happen, either we need to look for change in the context, and if that's not possible, then try and figure out how the mindset can be changed. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, sir. Yes. So because the other two options are in the surface, therefore it is not fair. We're talking about fairness, right? Because you could pretend to be someone else. You could pretend to not feel like that. You could pretend to care, but it's not fair to you or the people around you, right? So it's better to work on a mindset context level where you're still true to yourself, you act according to your beliefs, you're way happier, more connected, and you still get the results that you want. It takes a little bit more time, but it's what I'm trying to convey, Prasad.
Thank you, Jaime.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So what is exactly a mindset? So thinking patterns, connections that we have in our brain that are formed, some of them at a very early age, reinforced with time, ways of thinking, mindset aspects, and I'm giving you some synonyms maybe, cognitive perceptual preferences, right? Or style elements. So these are formed in our brain like synapses and connections that the more we use, the more true they become, and to us at least. And the more we use them, the stronger they become, just like anything else in our body. The more we exercise it, the more we become like that. So that's why we can change mindset. You can practice to be more reflective. You can reflexive. You can practice to be more proactive. You can practice and change mindset. You can train to do that. You can be trained to do that. So now that is mindset, but how is a mindset formed, and what is the effect that it has in the surroundings? So the first one is, for instance, you have a context. And in that context, in that specific context, whatever that context is, one person, we have two people here, one of them says, I believe that something is urgent. For some reason, in that context, they believe that if you don't do it now, you're gonna miss an opportunity, right? Do you know anybody like that? Do you know anybody at a very core, they believe that if they don't take the opportunity today, they are very good victims of marketing, right? Because marketing says, buy it now. And they say like, yes, because maybe tomorrow is not available, right? It's a 2 for 1, and they're very good for supermarkets. supermarkets actually benefit because, as you can see in the last part of the supermarket, and I assume in India is the same, just like anywhere else in the world, at the very end of the supermarket, when you're about to enter the cashier and pay your products, you have all these impulse products, like things that you will never go and buy to the supermarket, like chewing gum, and Frito-Lays, and maybe the magazine. And then you're there and just like, oh, yeah, let's buy this. You make a quick decision. You don't even think if you have the money, if you want to spend that, but you just act like that. So if you have that mindset that something is urgent, you feel uneasy and anxious. So that's a feeling that is triggered. Does that make sense? Yes? So something is urgent, you feel uneasy and anxious. Then if you feel uneasy, anxious, you start moving from one side to another, your heart is beating a little bit faster, your hands are moving here. What do? You make quick decisions. Then your thinking pattern is proactive. You're trying to get there. So that's one side, that's one person. Now let's analyze a different person in the same context. This person, for some reason, they have a different mindset. And the mindset is, if I believe everything needs to be thought through. I need to think about things. I need to sit back. Just look at my body language. It's totally different. The first person was here next to the camera. Yeah, what are we gonna do? What is this webinar about, right? Let's do something. What can I write? Yes. Where do I sign in for MindSonar, right? So that's a very proactive person. Now, the more reactive person sits back. Sometimes they touch their chin. And maybe some of you, not the ones who are using the webcam right now, but some of you who are not using a webcam, maybe you will surprise yourself like this, right? You will find yourself like this, and this is the thinking position. This is ready to take action. This is more reflexive, thinking about it. So if I have this belief, I have a different feeling. So what's the feeling? Reflexive, pensive. Yes, let's think about this. Not the first person is anxious. They don't need to think about things. They need to make a decision. This person, on the other hand, they are reflexive, pensive, thinking about things. They even use their hands like this, say, whoa, slow down. What is this about? Tell me more. Yes, what are you gonna do with that? And then that action is triggered. I think my decisions through. I sit back and think about things. And that is called reactive. This is one thinking patterns. We measured 32. So this is one proactive. This is another one reactive. Now, I want some ideas from you. What do you think would be a good position or a benefit of being proactive? Benefits. I would like you, I would love if you use your chat for this one, because I would like to read from you different ideas on why, what would be beneficial of the first person, the proactive person. What would be beneficial of having a mindset like that? Quick decisions, feeling uneasy and anxious, something is urgent. When is good to have that? Yes, for quick decision, Macaran. Get things done fast, yes. Rarely misses the opportunity, yes. Actually, they believe like one opportunity, right? And they grab it. Anybody else? Yes, the speed of action, yes. Could be a middle ground. Yes, they could be a middle ground too, but let's analyze first radical thinking styles, just to have an example. Speed, action, action-oriented, saves time. Yes, that's good. Now let's think about and share, please, reactive thinking style. So what happens? What are the benefits of the reactive thinking style? The one that sits back and says like, let me think about this. I don't know, let me think about it. I will read it through. I'll make my decision later. Come back next week. Yes, some of our clients are like that, right? Yes, more logical, pragmatic, yes. Do not repent. Best decisions are thought through. Yes, good. Good. Okay, so you're getting the idea. I love it. So the first one, proactive, good for simple decisions. Simple decision making, great. What are we having for lunch? Whatever is fine. It's going to be good. Quick decision, no problem. I have had some students who are so proactive that by the time we were deciding what we were having for lunch during a MindSonar certification training, this person had already ordered in a restaurant. So it was so proactive. She didn't even wait. She was so radically proactive that she didn't even wait. Now, the next one, the reactive person, is good for complex decision making. When you need to sit back and say, like, do I have enough resources for this? More project management. Do I have what I need? Do I have enough time? Yes. Does this collide with any other projects we're working on? Yes. Is this something that is really interesting to us? Is this going to bring an ROI? They think about it. Now, there's no right or wrong on this one because it's a psychology. There's nothing right or wrong. There's only things that are useful or not useful in a context. Now, one proactive person can have benefits and disadvantages, just like anything else. Could be that they act so quickly that they grab a lot of opportunities. Sometimes they make the wrong decision. Reactive people, reactive thinking style, they think about things. So when they make a decision, they really thought it through, but sometimes they wait for so long that they never make a decision, right? And we all know somebody like that. Sometimes we know that people are just sitting there and say like, yeah, yes, I will start my business. Yes, one day, let me design the business cards. They design the business cards and once they get them, they love them and they say like, okay, now I need a website. Let me think about it. Oh, you know what? The website is different from the business card. So let me change the business cards. So they go back to thinking about things and they never start their business. The proactive people usually start a business without business cards sometimes, without website or not even an email, right? They sell products they don't have and they design the products after they tell them. So this is very highly, of course, very radical behavior. Can you have something in between? Yes, of course. We will see an example of that. Is that desirable? It is better when you are a little bit more of one or the other, because if you are exactly balanced, what happens is that to the outside, you're good, proactive, reactive, balanced, but to the inside, you tend not to be happy because you can always do it faster. You can always think it better. So there's an inside conversation that is not healthy. Yes. Okay, good. I love the examples that you're sharing. Yes. Either of the extreme is non-beneficial. Yes. Yes. It could be damaging. Yes, too, that when you are too much of one, just like anything else, right? It's unhealthy. Yes. And it's contextual. Yes. So for instance, I have found myself that I'm very proactive in some scenarios, but then in other scenarios, I'm very reactive, right? When I'm afraid of the scenario, I'm afraid of the context, then I start like, oh, do I want to do that? Do I want to go there? Am I going to go there alone? I start thinking, so I'm reactive. But in other scenarios, I go and I say like, yeah, no, don't worry. Let's do it fast. Let's make a decision quickly. So that's why measuring in a specific context creates a difference. So how do you feel so far? Please send me a message on the chat. How do you feel so far? Do you like it? Are you following along? Is this a good example for you? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Meanwhile, I'll sip of water. Right? It's not wine. It's water. Too early for wine in Canada. Yes. Even though I could use excuse that is in India, it's already nighttime, right? But it's not. It's water. I need to drink a lot of water because in the cold weather, you get dehydrated and you don't notice. You do not notice because it's cold, so you don't feel like drinking water. Okay, yes, speed and direction, Shailendra. Yes, speed and direction. So now, if you have two people, one is proactive, one is reactive, same team, do they like each other? What do you think? No, they don't like each other. So, but most of the conflict, yes, there you go, partner. Conflict, you have conflict. Now, we can detect conflict by understanding thinking patterns. The good thing is that when you understand that conflict comes from thinking patterns, automatically you cover the first most important rule of mediation, which is separating the problem from the person. It's not that you don't like me, it's that you're reactive. It's not that you don't like me, it's that you are proactive, right? It's a thinking pattern, so I can address the situation, I can address the thinking pattern without hurting the person. So the next one, thank you, Mona. I'm glad you're finding it very interesting. Thank you. And I will share my contact information at the end. If you have any other questions, feel free to connect with me. Yes, so the next one, let's have, we will analyze 3 of this. Did anybody say something? No, okay. I heard something. Maybe they want to ask a question. Yes, depending on the context. So the next one, we will analyze 3 of this, and then I will show you a research that I have done on the Indian coach. So if you were planning to leave, stay with me, because I have run some research applying MindSonar tests, understanding thinking patterns for Indian coaches. Do you want to know how different you are from the coaches in America? I will give you some cues on how thinking patterns are different from the coach in India to the coach in America. And we will find out what that information is for us, and you will give me some insight on that. So the next one is about validation. The first question I have for you: how do you know when you do a good job? How do you know? Please send a message on the chat. How do you know when you do a good job? Okay, RB says good feedback. Aparna, good feedback from coaches. Karan, feedback. Okay, come on. Stakeholder feedback. Prasad is a project manager, I guess. Right? Client feedback. Good results. Okay. Self-satisfaction, Sundar. Okay, Sundar. Thank you for that. Client agenda, feel it. Prasad. Okay, good. So let's explore this one. Now that you gave me that answer, that's going to give you some information on the next thinking pattern, which is how you validate your work. So now let's go again to the mindset. If I believe that how I feel about my work is more important, then I am self-critic, right? Because it's what I think what's important. So I self-criticize my work. And then I listen to my own opinion. Therefore, I'm internally referenced. So I'm highly internally referenced. That may be good in some contexts, may not be so good in other contexts. Like for instance, you want a police officer, a judge, a quality manager, an advisor, auditor, the tax department. I don't know how you call the taxes in India, but I guess taxes is the same, right? But everywhere. And but these tax agents who go and visit, they must be internal reference. Why? Because nobody is going to tell them, thank you, police officer, for giving me a fine. Nobody's going to say that, right? So they have to know that they are doing a good job. They are self-critics of their work. They are internally referenced. Now, on the other hand, if I believe that other people's perception is more important, how do I act? I listen to other people's opinion more. That's how I feel. And I look for feedback. And then I become external reference. Now, according to the answers on the chat, and you can probably read those ones, all those of you who said feedback, client satisfaction, client's feedback, stakeholders' feedback are on the external reference side, right? Because you're looking for that feedback that is coming from the outside. Now, for those of you who said like Sonder, self-satisfaction, we internally feel it, Prasad. It's a little bit more of the internal reference, right? So I know I did a good job because I feel like that. Now, some positions, let's talk about positions in a company where external reference is good. Think about an organization and think about different ways that different positions in a company that are externally referenced. Yes, customer service, that's a natural. You want a customer service representative to be externally referenced. Why? Because they're always looking for the smile, looking for the feedback on the person. Does that make sense? Yes? So that's another one. Any other positions that you can think of in a company that are audit, internal, operations, external? Yes, there you go. So you can see how even for recruitment purposes, you can use mindsets. The mindset is going to give you an edge when working in a specific position, right? Marketing could be more external reference, yes. Police officers, I mentioned before, judge can be internal reference, right? Politicians during campaign, they are very external reference, but then once they are in the power, they become very internally reference, right? Well, at least in my country, I don't know in other countries, but at least in my country, it goes like that, right? They change from one context because it's different context, right? In one of them, they need us, the other one, not so much. Okay, so the next one, before we go to the group profile, this is how you see things. What do you pay attention to? Do you pay attention to what is good? Do you pay attention to what is wrong? What calls your attention? So let's analyze the same process again. This is the last time we do that. If I believe that there's always a learning, a positive side on things, that's my belief, then what is going to be my feeling? I feel optimist. You know, whatever happens to me, there's something I can do about it. Whatever happens to me, there's always something I can learn, right? So my feeling is optimist, and my action is to look for what's right. Therefore, I'm called matching. Do you know anybody who's like that? Do you know anybody who is always looking for the, you know, the good side of things, the glass half filled instead of the glass half empty? So that's the matching thinking style. Then we have the next one, which is the opposite. If I believe that there's always a catch, there's always a mistake to be found, there's always something that's going to happen, something wrong that is hiding there. If you believe that, then you feel analytic, feel critic, feel specific about things. You start looking for whatever is wrong. You look for what's wrong, you call that mismatch. Does that make sense? Right? That's why you have someone who is matching and someone who is mismatching. Like this, has it ever happened to you? I will answer Matthew in a moment. So has it ever happened to you that you're doing a presentation, you're delivering a presentation, and then there is someone who is only looking at the mistakes of the presentation? You say, yeah, there are 200 slides. Only 2 of them had maybe some grammatical error, and that person is focusing on that. They don't talk about the good things, they talk about the bad things. Have you ever met someone like that?
Me.
Yeah, is that you, or you met someone like that? Yes, it happens, right? So now, what do we pay attention to? Do we pay attention to what our beliefs dictate us to pay attention to? So I believe that there's always something wrong. I feel analytic, and I'm going to look for that mistake until I find it. So that could be good for some positions. For instance, Mathine was asking, isn't it contradicting where audit teams always looks for wrong and audit is internal reference? No, it's not contradicting, because actually a good audit would have a mix of mismatching, looking for what's wrong, and internal reference, because I know what I need to do. I know the the policies. I know the procedures. So if we miss those two, it is good for quality control. What we pay attention to is contextual, right? Yes, it's contextual. Because if you change the context, you change to what you pay attention to. And if you don't if you want to try that, all you have to do is to look for that, to look to that person, significant other person that you have in your life, right? When you look at that person, you become very matching when you are in love, right? Everything is right. You know, it's like, oh well, but she's so beautiful, or he's so handsome, and we start talking about the good things. But then when we are upset with that person, then suddenly we become very mismatching, right? We pay attention to that time when that person did something we didn't like. So the changing context changes to what we pay attention to, right? Yes, contextual according to you. Yes, sir. Prasad? Yes. This is very powerful. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed this. Now, we measured 32 of these thinking styles because it takes time to understand someone. For instance, if I do a coaching session without any tool to measure thinking patterns, what is going to happen is that I will spend five sessions just listening to the person. Up to 5 coaching sessions, I will be listening, paying attention to them, trying to understand what is going on, and then I will start categorizing these different thinking patterns. But what if I can do that in 45 minutes? What if I can do that just with a test? That's what we do with MindSonar. We measure 32 different thinking styles so you can immediately have some feedback on how this person thinks. So this kind of thinking needs to be practiced a lot. Yes, if we master it, we can easily change and adapt our behaviors by becoming aware about our context and mindset. Right on. So basically what you need to do with your coachee is first to make them conscious of the situation. When somebody is conscious of their situation, we calculate, according to our research, 80% of people who are conscious of something that they want to change, they change it. Just by making it conscious, right? I know that, I'm a little bit too proactive. Yes, never had that insight. But now that I have it, I will probably change that a little bit. So just making it conscious goes a long way. But then we also have some exercises that we can practice. Probably we can do another webinar in the future about that. So how we can change these mindsets, which is a totally different webinar on that. How do we change that? What exercises do I give to my coachee? What kind of conversations do I have with them in order to change the mindset they don't want to have or develop the ones they want? Now, with this in mind, we have gone through 3 different meta programs or thinking styles. We measured 32, but I will mention only some of them. We measured the sense of urgency. Do you make decisions quickly? Do you wait? Motivation style. Do I motivate by what I think, by what other things? We saw that one. Responsibility. Do I feel responsible for everything? Or do I feel that I'm just a part of the system and I'm an effect of the circumstances? The way I process information. Do I love general information, summaries? Do I like specific information? Critical thinking. Do I follow the procedures? Do I generate my own procedures? Procedural thinking. Working style. How do you work? Do you work together with people? Do you work sharing responsibilities? Do you prefer to work solo? We measure that, and it's all based on beliefs. Positioning in time. Do I focus on what happened in the past? What is going on right now? What will happen in the future? That's an important difference with coaches in America and India, and we will see that in a moment. Channel of communication of NLP. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic. How is my coachee communicating with me? Perception of change, right? Am I ready to change? Do I like change? Do I like things to remain the same through time? this one. Processing information, learning focus. How do you learn? Do you learn on, some people are asking themselves right now, what is this MindSonar thing coming from? Who is that Dr. Jack Hollander? Who is this guy who's talking to me? Yes, what are his credentials? That's very conceptual thinking style. Now, some other people are thinking, how am I gonna use this? What is this good for? Which of my clients need it? That's very use-oriented. Different learning focus, right? Same topic, different learning focus. Motivations and criteria we also measure. So we measure, as I've mentioned several times in this webinar, we measure 32 different meta programs or thinking styles, just like the ones you saw. Now, do you have any questions so far before we see the comparison between the two different profiles of coaches? Any questions that you have? Anything that you would like to comment on? I'm reading the chat. You're also welcome to use the microphone if you feel like. No questions?
So, Jamie, in the interest of time, I would suggest we could take up questions offline. Yeah, because we only have 4 to 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And people would want to leave at the end of the session. So we will take questions, but we will take it maybe offline later.
Okay, so how much time do we have left?
We can have at least 5 to 6 minutes more.
Good. So let's focus on the results then.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so according to research, we have applied more than 1,000 MindSonar profiles. One of these profiles is a group profile, so which is the average profile of coaches in America. The other one is coaches in India. So we're going to go quickly and review this one. You can ask any questions you have on the chat, and I will try to address as I'm explaining this. The first one is coaches in America. They focus on action. They have internal, external validation, balance. They focus on close collaboration, and they are on the present. Now, what is the difference with coaches in India? These 4 different graphic bars are the ones that I want you to pay attention to because they change on the bottom graphic. Coaches in India, they focus on a strategy, right? They are more of the reactive. Coaches in America, they go forward. Coaches in India, they think about things, right? Coaches in America, they say like, okay, what do you think? My coachee, what do you think? Coaches in India, they think about more like, if I think is right, right? So they are a little bit more internally validated. Coaches in America, they focus more on close collaboration. In America, you find a lot of coaches that share responsibilities, work together in projects. They go together working on a project and they share either profits and work. And it is very easy to find coaches in America that are companies of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 coaches together, working together as a team, sharing all the responsibilities. India is more proximity. So what that means is, I'm here to help you, but I do have my own responsibilities. So you can support, you can provide support, but you don't share responsibilities. And the present future, the coach in India seems to be a little bit more future oriented, while the coach in America tends to be more present oriented. So now this is just to give you an example of how thinking patterns are good for group profiling too. So I will share the next one because on benefit of time. We use MindSonar to boost, or thinking patterns to boost your coaching sessions. Instead of having 5 coaching sessions, the first coaching session you're giving results because you already know a lot about your coaching. So for all those people who are working in companies, they want to give good results, work on thinking patterns is way easier and much more effective. Improve results in sales teams. You know how to communicate, you get better teams. We work with BMW, the car company, helping them invert the Pareto that they had. 20% of their sales team was selling 80% of the product. Now they are inverting that and having more people sell more product because we know how the successful sales team agent works. Recruitment and career planning, we use for the Army. Every time someone needs to go on a higher rank, they need to take MindSonar in the Dutch military in order to move forward and start thinking on a different pattern, because different ranks require different patterns of thinking. Of course, just like in companies, supervisor does not or should not think the same as a manager, and manager should not think the same as a director. Different thinking patterns for different positions. Conflict resolution, we solve conflict with MindSonar. We already detected conflict. Proactive, reactive, they don't get along. Internal, external reference, they don't get along. Matching, mismatching, they don't like each other, right? So we can detect and prevent conflict. Team building, of course, that's a natural. Leadership and modeling. And this is the last. This is 2 people who are present in this training. These are their profiles. I didn't write their names, even though they gave me permission to show the profiles. I didn't write the names, just respectfully. And they are part of the same team. So we have 2 different. What do you find of similarities in these 2 profiles? First, just for the benefit of time, I will speed up the process here. This and this and this and this are the same. And this and this. So out of 4 thinking patterns, 3 are the same. What is the benefit of that? What do you think? Well, both are positive-oriented, optimist, and responsible. That's good. But what is the downside of that? Well, first let's talk about the advantages. Both positive-oriented, they get along, are easy to work with, highly responsible with high ownership. So everything so far so good, because we like people who think alike. But what are the disadvantages? If they were working in a team, the problem is that if you have the same thinking patterns, you lack the same thinking patterns. So you would have opportunities like lack of critic eye to spot risks. Yes. Yes, they may not challenge other thinkings. Yes. Sometimes they may think that they are in control when they are really not. Or sometimes they are overwhelmed with lots of things they want to control, but they really can't. So as you can see, you can also help teams cover their blind spots, the thinking patterns they don't have, by asking powerful questions. Now, if I was a coach for these 2 people in a team, all my questions would be in the opposite thinking styles, right? I would be mismatching, I would be away from, I would be external reference. So I would be on the opposite side to bring that vision that they are not having. So does that make sense? Do you like it? We're approaching the end. I would like to get some feedback overall. Well, you can see professionals there from all over the world that we're working. And I'm there next to Dr. Jaap Hollander, who is in the blue jacket. And actually, I will be seeing Dr. Hollander. I'm traveling to the Netherlands next month.
Thank you, Jaime.
You're very welcome. Very welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Prasad, thank you very much. So there's my email, as I promised at the beginning. There's my email. If you want to try MindSonar, if you want to use MindSonar, we'll try a free sample. You want to learn how you can use this tool with your clients, your coaches, just let me know, right? Send me an email at info@mindsonar.ca, and I'll be glad to connect with you. Thank you very much, and greetings from Canada to all of you, and I'll send it back to you.
Thank you so much, Jaime, for taking your time out. I know it's a little early in the morning for you guys there, but thank you. Very insightful, very wonderful session. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, so we'll not be able to really extend it further for any questions, but we are open to taking it offline, and anybody who's interested can reach to Jaime. Apart from that, I have put in the link for the Google form for getting your CCUs. So please copy this link, save this link, and send it to me, or complete the form by within 24 hours by tomorrow. and we will be sending you the CCUs by November end. All right. So great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in, and have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.